Esper, Trevor, Dr. Glass, and Nihilus von Stonen. Alarms ring from the Citadel, heard in the distance. Bells toll in Port Hillcrest. Carriages of all sorts scattered throughout the city seem to be sprawling across all of the streets. A curfew seems to have immediately gone into effect with these sirens because any civilians you might have seen earlier seem to be shuffling into homes and houses frantically. And as you run outside of this residence, where do you go?
We must get to safety. Quickly.
The Stout is the closest.
It is. There's so much going on, so much to think of. Would we even be safe there?
We can't trust the Whaler. We can't trust the Whaler.
The only person who saw us at that house, who's still alive, is Marta. And Marta is at the Salted Stout. At least that's where we sent her. I think for multiple kinds of safety, it behooves us to go to where she is and see how she's doing.
I concur. We should make haste.
Run as fast as you can.
Try to keep an eye out.
I would like everybody to roll for me a stealth check.
I would like to give Bardic to Trevor.
I might need that. So, with the help of Bardic Inspiration, I have a 7.
I have a 5.
I have a 7.
A 15.
Oh my god.
That's a 7, a 5, a 7, and a 15. Okay. Very well.
Nihilus slips away like a sensible person, and we never see him again.
Nihilus just gets lost.
Cleric is the stealthiest.
As you make your way through the old cobblestone streets of Port Hillcrest, dodging your way down back alleys all the way towards the Salted Stout, you find that there's one main road that the Salted Stout rests along, and that's also where the most traffic is. As you hide in the alley just before arriving there, you see it's incredibly busy and taking pause as carriages go by from left to right, finding an opportunity to run across. You do so, hoping that you were unseen with your 7, 5, 7, and 13. You open the door to the Salted Stout and get in. And there you see inside, it's silent. There are some patrons who are staying here who aren't drinking anything. They're just waiting for the sirens to stop and the alarm bells to stop ringing. You see Edmund Fairfax, the bartender you met earlier. He looks at you suspiciously as you walk in.
Dr. Glass, I think, turns to the group, and she's bracing herself, and she's about to do something similar to... Certainly Trevor and Nihilus have seen her do this before, but if they're paying attention at all and have any insight, she's not hiding that it's a little harder right now, but she's gonna do what she has to do.
Nihilus recognizes that, takes a step closer, and puts his hand on Dr. Glass's back and says, "It's quite all right. Do what you must." And he casts guidance while he embraces his holy emblem.
Trevor, he looks over at Dr. Glass. It's not a blank expression anymore. It's a hint of the dog in the middle of eating your homework is just, like, looking at you with this, like, I know what I did, and I'm sorry, all wordlessly, and is just completely giving himself over to your deference.
And she clocks that with surprise, but there's no time to do with it now. She just turns around and she goes, and demeanor completely changes, and she goes around to the room. She says, "Edmund, what is going on in this city? We just began our sightseeing, and now there's all this noise everywhere, and everyone's rushing about inside. We barely got a few blocks away. Why is everyone looking so dour? I think I'll have a drink. I don't know if everyone else is, but..."
He pours some drinks with the bottom of the shelf swill that he has and puts it on the table.
And I guess Dr. Glass performatively makes a face, because that's the act she's doing. She raises the glass and says, "Cheers, dear. Apparently we've missed something. Was everything all right?"
Look, you're either going to be brutally honest with me, or I'm gonna send you back out and let the authorities deal with you. And he looks back toward the door to the back room, and you see Marta just peeking her eye through the crack. She's just behind in the storage room of this tavern.
Brutally honest about what, Edmund? That's what my honesty tends to be, I should warn you.
This place doesn't need extra attention. I'm afraid if you bring it, it could be bad for a lot of people. I'm not opposed to helping if you fess up and tell me what you did.
Wes, I am inclined to believe him, but I feel it's my professional duty just to do an insight check.
Go ahead and roll insight.
Silas is slowly approaching as well.
26 on insight.
He has smile wrinkles at the corner of his eyes. He's always a happy-go-lucky, behind-the-bar sort of person. It's his job to do so. He's the bartender. But whenever somebody like this dons the most blank, uncaring, or even concerned look, for some reason it carries more weight than that of quite anybody else who might make that expression. It's a mix between disappointment and, with the 26, some curiosity. You see out of the corner of his eye a twitch. He is on edge. He doesn't know whether to trust. You also see a hatch in the floor just behind the bar. There's something more to this person. A secret that he's quite literally standing on as he looks down, glancing only just briefly with his eyes. He looks capable in some way of helping.
Dr. Glass puts her drink down and looks at him and glances at her group. "I didn't mean to insult you, Edmund. I was hoping to protect you by not giving you information against your will, if you know what I mean. It's often safer for people to not know more than they need to know."
We're not trying to be bothered, truly. We understand what you are saying, and we're trying to get our bearings here as well. I hope you understand. And he kind of eyes towards the room, the back room specifically.
You know, your trip to Port Hillcrest, to the island, would have been so much easier if you didn't take sides, stayed neutral. But when you step behind the curtain, you'll find it's not what it seems to be on the surface. Well, you picked a side, and he steps to the side and grabs a rope attached to a hatch behind the bar and opens it, looks out towards the patrons who sit quietly as a couple of them look back almost with a silent agreement between them. And unspeaking, he gestures his head to usher you in.
"Oh, Edmund, I was born behind the curtain. I spent decades trying not to pick a side, but sometimes a side picks you." And she pats him on the arm.
Trevor, who accepted the drink, the glass itself looking a bit minuscule in his large hand, still has the twinge of a tremor as he sets it down and goes to follow Dr. Glass. He looks over to Edmund and just says, "Thank you. I understand what you're doing, and I'm going to try and make it up to you."
Oh, you will.
Not even a hint of, like, unease on his face. He knows what it's like to be on the lower end of a deal and to accept that. He just gives a nod and goes to follow the doctor.
We will speak later.
Yeah. And as he kind of pushes your shoulder down just to hasten your descent down the ladder, he closes the hatch, and you're all under this tavern in the dark. There's a dripping sound from the corner. It's humid. You can see large kegs and barrels for storage in what dim light shines through the cracks of the floorboards above, and a floating dust in the air. You hear, after some time, the door to the tavern open. It's been long enough that you know at this point nobody in their right mind would still be on the streets, so this clearly isn't another patron or a resident. And you hear as two heavy footsteps travel from one end of the tavern to the other, pulling a bar stool and sitting down, and there's no insulation in this ceiling. You can hear everything. As a voice,
"Well, Edmund, a siren goes off and your bar's full yet again. Tell me, you have nothing to do with this, right?"
No, just making enough to keep the lights on. I keep my nose above water.
Sure. Hey, why don't you pour me a drink of that top shelf stuff so we can chat?
Yeah, of course. Bottle uncorks, liquid pours.
After this curfew, I saw some folks come up into your tavern.
Is that what you saw?
Yeah. I just thought it's funny. You know, after last time.
I don't know what you're talking about, Percival.
Tell you what, tell me where they are. Your bar, it survives another year.
Percival, I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. And after the last seizure and tearing apart my bar, you got yourself in a bit of trouble. I don't think you want to find yourself there again. But I'll tell you what, give me notice and I'll let you rummage about in the morning.
Right. So you wouldn't mind if I checked the back?
I can't help you. Sorry. You hear as there's a grab, a scuffle, and a slam against the bar above. And footsteps starting to round the bar and go towards the hatch. The room you're in has kegs, boxes, barrels, and you have but a few moments, seconds even.
As in the darkness of the cellar, Trevor's eyes, almost like cat's eyes, reflected in the very low light. There's a mixture of fear in the eyes, but there's also a more base animalistic survival instinct. I mean, he's a pretty big guy, but he's gonna do his damnedest to try and slowly but surely put his hand on his short sword. And just all this wordlessly, just hold his breath as best he can.
Well, Dr. Glass would like to hide within 30 feet of the ladder and prepare with her shadowy, spectral mage hand friend to try to trip our new friend Percival so that he just slips and falls.
If there is any slightly ajar crate or small space for Esper to squeeze into, Esper wants to do it.
Okay. And Nihilus?
Nihilus, he opens up his spell book. There's There's a line of fear on his face. He's dripping sweat. He's persevering. He's trying to desperately find a page, but it's so dark. He's trying to be quiet. He's rummaging through. And even if not at the last moment, he holds his action to cast a spell.
I need to know your held action trigger.
The moment we would be seen.
And Dr. Glass, is that something a mage hand can do?
Okay, so here's the thing. So I know Mage Hand isn't very strong, but am I the only person this happens to constantly? Do you ever walk past a door handle and your belt loop gets caught on it somehow?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just I hate it so much. And I don't know.
It's less a matter of strength and more a matter of momentum.
Or if
Sounds like
there's
an
something.
ad.
You're
It's
right.
Like an ad for Mage
Has this
Hand.
ever happened to you?
Yeah. Maybe you should clip that as an ad for Mage Hand. Okay, but I think if there's a nail, she wants to hook something of his onto something of the ladder. So it's more of it's not a strength. It's like a one movement that would make him trip.
I was thinking of it more like, he's walking into a dark basement. A cat isn't very strong. It's not going to pick you up and push you down the stairs. But if it's on one of the steps and you don't see
it's
it
easy
coming,
to fall off
it
a
can
ladder.
throw you off guard.
Okay. Let's do this. Everybody please roll a renewed stealth check. And Dr. Glass, please roll a sleight of hand.
But I'm not good at either of those.
Okay, a little better. A 12.
That's a 6.
Same 7 on stealth.
Next level can't come soon enough.
Okay. 19 sleight of hand.
Total of? Oh, 8. I thought it was a 1. All right. 8.
All right. You hear as the footsteps round the bar, you can hear the jangle of a duty belt, handcuffs laden onto it, and he even gives a bit of a whistle as you hear the spot where Edmund was standing kind of groan to the side with a creak as his body kind of crawls to one end of the bar. He goes to the hatch, and you hear the rope pull taut as the hatch slowly opens. He looks below as a mage hand gives a push just in the right spot to not be noticed, but to cause him to stumble forward, nearly falling into the hole as he catches himself on the other edge of this hatch, giving him disadvantage on his perception check.
Fuck! Whatever.
You hear him stand, slam the hatch closed as he looks back towards Edmund.
I'm gonna catch you, Edmund. One day, I'm gonna catch you doing whatever shit happens in this tavern.
Yeah, just fine. And the footsteps recede back across the tavern as the door opens and closes.
She goes,
The hatch opens up, and down crawls Edmund, who closes it above his head. Whew. There you have it. That's a mighty big favor I just did for you.
Are you all right?
Yeah. It's not the first time. And it's part of the price of being a business owner at Port Hillcrest, so. You see a rough-looking shiner on the side of his head, and a little bit of blood dribble down his cheek.
And she very, presumptuously and authoritatively, in her comforting way, just gestures him over and starts to dab at it and gets a little arnica or whatever out of her doctor's bag. It puts it on the shiner.
Thanks.
I'm sure you've had worse, but we do what we can.
Whatever you all did, This is the worst I've ever seen a search happen. So, you're going to be explaining this to someone.
We owe you our deepest gratitude. I can let you know that Saurus does not forget its history, neither do those who follow him indeed, as I will not forget what you did here.
Fuck Saurus, and frankly, fuck the Vanthorns. And he stands up and walks across the room to one of the shelves of bottles of liquor. All of them look incredibly heavy, large kegs and bottles. But oddly, the shelf slides with relative ease as it rolls, opening a room that seems to have been carved into the earth beneath the street. There's a light on. You see gears and cogs, watches, little machines, and you see an older man sitting in a rocking chair in the corner. Oh? Edmund, you have guests? They got themselves in a bit of trouble, but they did something that I think the boss is going to like. Very well. In the corner, you see another, what looks to be, well, let me put it this way. Slim, would you describe your character?
You see what appears to be a man, tall at 6.5 foot, apparently wearing a full suit of armor, standing upright and composed, draped in a heavy great coat. A hood partially conceals the armored helmet, eye slits visible. It appears someone has taken a dent to it with some sort of bludgeoning instrument, leaving the visor crooked. Steel and leather gauntlets safeguard the hands and wrist, and dark leather leggings complete the ensemble. The armor apparently had sigils and motifs decorating it once, but now it is burnt black in a rough manner, concealing their details. The man is holding a broom and has paused his cleaning of the rather cluttered workshop you have found yourselves in.
Not that you needed to be more than meets the eye, Edmund, but you certainly are.
Yeah, you'll find there's a whole city under this city.
I truly mean that you don't want to know everything that happened, but it might help you to know that there was justice done for Maggie today.
I'm sure Maggie will be happy about that.
Is Marta all right?
Yeah. She'll be fine.
Good.
He turns, starts to walk before he stops for a moment. This should let up by morning. If not, I'll make sure you're okay down here for a little while. After this is over, we gotta get you back to where you were. Otherwise, it'll arouse suspicion.
Agreed.
He goes to the ladder and pushes the hatch open and closed as he steps up into the bar. Well, guests haven't seen real people besides Edmund in quite a while.
Please make yourselves comfortable. I will prepare some drinks. As the man sets the broom aside, and despite wearing a full suit of armor, barely makes a sound as they withdraw further into the room.
Thank you. No kidding, huh? A city under a city.
I think you lucked out.
Well, this is just a room.
Well, it's more than we could afford at this current moment. Been here long? Making conversation.
Yes, you could say I've been here for a while. I am Cogsworth. He looks over towards some of his little devices on the table, little automaton-style mindless machines that walk around. And this is Paladin.
You would see the man come back with a tray with hot water, tea, and several glasses, and tiny cups of tea, somewhat smudged with oil stains and grease, as he will set it down at a small table. The man in armor would begin to clear the area around, moving what appeared to be mechanical gadgets, large heavy books, leaving room for all of you to sit. Paladin, a pleasure. What are your names?
Esper?
We certainly can tell you our names. Are you sure you want that information?
The way I see it, if you are here, then we're already quite involved together.
At least courtesy would deem it so.
Of course, I have no compunctions. I just wanted to, again, not give anyone dangerous information against their will. I'm Dr. Glass, Isadora.
Trevor kinda just sits down on the nearest seat, takes a bit of water, and just takes a long sip just from the water itself. Thank you. Sorry, I just need a bit of time to get my thoughts together.
And Dr. Glass, who's sat as well, spares him a look.
And the man in robes with a heavy tome sitting down on the nearest table, he introduces himself as, "Hi, I'm Nihilus, Inquisitor of Saurus's Testimonium, faithful as can be, at your service."
Oh, and also, this is Gizmo. And he takes a little mechanical toy and winds it and puts it on the floor so it walks towards Nihilus. This one's Bolt, and we have Sparky and Pivot.
Intriguing mechanical devices. Are they arcanic or purely mechanical?
I made them with some sunstones and a lot of love.
Wonderfully crafted. Clearly you have experience.
Yes, Gizmo was the most difficult. He did not want to live, but I made sure he did.
I'd love to discuss sometime.
Well, I take it you'll be here a little while. I don't have any other beds, but I have some of these. And he goes to a side of the room, pulls a crate of dusty old blankets and pillows, and pushes it to the middle of the room. I know it's not the Whaler, but it should do for tonight.
Honestly, I think I almost prefer this. I'm used to rather rough living, so maybe we can do a bit of talking while we wait for this to blow over, and we can all kind of figure out what the next step is.
Thank you. We'll make the best out of it. And yes, there's much we should discuss. And he looks at the rest of the group.
I don't know how quickly word travels, or if you heard anything from up above, but I think you can probably make some assumptions that state of emergency, the sirens going up, we had something to do with that.
Baladin would have been preparing your bed rest when you begin speaking about the events that occurred. It would be wringing out the sheets, trying to get all the dust out of them. Eyes not visible beneath the eye slits in the dark room. We are friends of Edmund, and friends of Edmund are friends to us. I imagine that you ran into trouble. If you wish to keep the details to yourself, by all means, but consider this a place of refuge and rest until, as your friend here says, it blows over.
Is it gonna blow over? I mean, hopefully we can go back above ground sooner rather than later. Like you said, we gotta get back to the Whaler, or else we're just gonna be kicking up more dirt than needs kicking.
I certainly don't like that already authorities are looking for us. I think we have to, but...
We must?
Nobody nobody knows for sure that we have anything to do with what happened. I mean, everybody who's in that house is either here or, they're dead. They're dead.
It's just occurring to me. I don't know what Dr. Veering might have communicated before the end.
As I was
Dr. Veering. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Priest. You were going to say something?
And Isadora winces a little to hear the name again.
Yeah, I suppose I was going to say, well, as I was taught by my mentor, Father Patrick, he taught me an important fact about knowing what is what. Saurus holds the knowledge of all, and even if you pray your entire life and be faithful to his teachings, and he will share his knowledge with you, you as a person do not control what others have over the world in their terms of knowledge. We can act to the best with what we know, but it is out of our hands to what others might know. Cannot say I know for sure what others know about our current situation, and I think it would not be wise for us to worry as much about it. We should simply act what we deem to be right.
As far as I can make sense of it, there's nothing left in that house that would have seen us. At least to me, that we should be able to walk back into the Whaler as if nothing was wrong tomorrow.
I'm afraid I know of a way. There are ways to make even the dead talk. And since there are at least 2 that I know of in that single house.
Mr. Valadin, you appear to be some sort of soldier or veteran yourself. Have you ever encountered such incredible feats as Nihilus here has described?
I am not well practiced in the arts of the arcane or divine, although I have read about it in books. If you are speaking of bodies, the authorities probably have them.
Yeah. If we were even gonna go back there, that'd mean putting our head right in the lion's mouth and just hoping that it don't bite down.
And pray tell, what brings you down here in your shiny armor?
The armor was shiny once. I found myself, as he'll point to a pile of junk. In the same way, Cogsworth has collected these pieces from above.
Well, perhaps it's my eyes. I apologize.
You see Cogsworth smile gently towards Valadin for a moment. You can tell them everything you feel comfortable, Valadin. Don't hold your tongue on my account.
Valadin would rest, having not sat this entire time, a hand on Cogsworth's shoulder. He would take the same hand and, with some effort, lift the dented visor. Underneath the visor, you would see a mockery of a human face in metallic pipes and wiring before he lowers the visor once more.
Specifically you, Cogsworth, when the name Veering was mentioned, you reacted. And now that I'm seeing part of what makes you, Valadin, I can't help but think that there's a little more of what you mentioned, that we might all be involved.
Oh, I just know the name Veering because he removed my kidney 40 years ago.
Well, that's fair.
He's a surgeon, after all.
What did
At least the Veering I know.
What did he look like?
Handsome man, slicked back hair, was an avid smoker. It's been a long time, I can't quite remember all the small details. Then again, I was face down and he had a knife in my back.
I suppose I have nothing to compare that to anyway.
At the best of times, Trevor has difficulty keeping more than one thing focused on at a time. Have I ever seen anything like Valadin before?
We're in the era of arcane technological marvels. We see amazing contraptions all the time. We see recording devices that mix arcane and machine. Even Nihilus von Stonen is holding a Vox Brass communicator, crudely made, mind you, but a device that lets you communicate over long distances. That is a marvel. Even these little contraptions that walk across the floor are something you might not have seen. This is unusual, and rare doesn't begin to describe what it might be.
Yeah, to put in context, a few months ago, Trevor was completely taken aback by a voice recorder. So that's the world he comes from. He's staring at the small little automatons just sort of moving on their own and being like, oh wow. He can't help but stare. He's not going to say anything, but it's a wide-eyed kind of like, I'm in way over my head kind of look.
Oh, don't be concerned. It's totally harmless.
No, I get you. I think... No, I trust you. I think you seem a little too, I'm not gonna say nothing, but,
Here, have this. And he hands you out of his pocket a little spinning top that, when he winds it and puts it into your hand, if you hold it outstretched, it spins in your hand.
Thank you. Wow. You see, for the first time in a while, just a smallest little bit of a smile just to distract him kind of creaks on his face.
And with your small smile, you see a very massive one appear on Cogsworth's face.
Thanks for that. He'll kind of just see it kind of spin in his hands before he kind of closes his fist around it gently. You've been in here a while, I'm assuming. You're used to all this stuff. It feels like I just stepped into a new world. So, forgive me if I'm a little not well. But this is great. Thank you. And he'll kind of just set it down on the table. Doctor.
Spinning her cane a little bit between her fingers and examining the head of it, and she looks up.
Did I do the right thing? I feel like I did the right thing, especially in the moment. I felt good. I felt good about what I was doing. I liked, having that power in my hands. And now, shit just turned sideways, and I don't know.
She stops her cane and hangs her head for a moment. Like, this is not a question she expected, and it hurts to hear. And she lifts her head back up and says, "Oh, Trevor, I understand that this is hard, and I imagine this is a strange moment for all of us. I don't think any of us are quite in the right. Mr. Cogsworth, Mr. Valadin, I don't suppose there's any tea or something warm to drink. Nihilus, how are you faring? I know that was all particularly disturbing for you."
You're right about that.
And she kind of puts a hand on Trevor's hand and gives it a little squeeze, as though to say, give me a sec.
I do not feel well about the path that we're currently on, but the sins that I almost did just now. I was ready to commit a sin for our cause, and I need to pray. I need to set it right. I need to think and collect my thoughts to What's going on here? We're being pulled behind the curtain. There's so much to see. So much I was not prepared for. I feel overwhelmed and confused, and I do not like.
Before you pray and think, which can be very useful, I hope you won't withdraw from us. I wonder what you mean by our cause.
I have eyes, I have a conscience. Whether I am a follower of Saurus or not, I can see what is going on. This is not right on the ship itself. And he points towards Trevor with his open palms. You've been done wrong, clear by day. It's like you're being targeted for unlawfulness, and there's no escape to it. I feel like if I flee, if I retrieve myself from the situation, it will only get worse. Like, justice, the right thing needs to be done. And that monstrosity that we encountered, what in the blazes was it even? In all of my stories, in all of my journeys, I've not encountered this like it. It needed to be rid of this world, and this was in a common place right below where we were sleeping. What else is in this town? A city below a city. What is going on here? I need to get to the bottom of it. Whether it is my duty as a follower or whether it is my own conscience, I will not flee from this place until I have done what I think is right.
No, of course. Do you still think telling the authorities about what we saw at the Whaler is the best course of action?
I cannot trust to believe that this whole island is corrupted. I need to believe that there is something right about this place. How it used to be. It used to be the jewel of this continent.
Yes, I remember.
I've read so many happily stories. I don't know if it's the right thing, but I know in every other place it would be. So why not here?
How are you feeling about what you saw Trevor and I do today at that house? I know you didn't want us to.
I understand. I do not agree. Killing, taking a life, should never be easy.
I don't blame you for feeling like you do. I think in a weird kind of way, I'm jealous. I never followed any kind of Saurus or anything like that. You know, I just felt that when the time comes, I'd know what to do. And so to have a bit of structure to the morality of it all, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't go for some of that now. Something that tells me that this is right and this is wrong.
We can try.
But you know, Nihilus, you could still just walk away from...
Could I?
The three of us.
Could I honestly?
Yes.
You think I could look myself in the mirror?
Yes, I think eventually, yes. I think people are singularly adept at looking themselves at the mirror after getting rid of encumbrance.
Isadora, all of my life I've prayed to the teachings of a God that teaches knowledge and truth. If I would look myself in the mirror, if I walked away from this, all I could see was a lie. A lie of who I am, of what I stand for the teachings that I pray for. I would be throwing it all away. For what? Just so I could feel a bit more safe. Safety that I would live in while others would divulge. Who am I to choose such a path? Why would I be more worthy of safety than others? Especially if it's in my control. I've been taught, I've been trained, I've studied. Look, I'm not saying I'm some sort of saint and I've done wrong. And he looks at Trevor in the eyes with a particular mention. I am not pure. But like I mentioned, we can try. And this place needs a reshaping, and I am here for the long run. So please, don't think of me as if I'm some external party here to help. Honestly, I don't know how else, but I'm here to ask you to lend your aid to me as well. I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Doctor.
Nihilus, You have devoted your life to knowledge, and I've devoted mine to understanding. Understanding how people behave. And I don't see any reason why you wouldn't turn me into the authorities at some point, Nihilus.
Doctor.
Not today, but you'll eventually talk yourself into why it's the right thing to do.
If I may.
Of course.
We're rats in a maze right now. We're literally backed into a corner. No disrespect. In some hole in the ground underneath a tavern.
Oh, none taken.
We are swiftly running out of friends. People that we can trust. I don't care what brought you to the dance, Nihilus, whether it was providence, whether it was conscience, whether it was pure dumb luck. You made the choice to be here, and I respect that. You were with me in that dank room for days, and you didn't complain once, and I respect that. So, the Van Thorns want our heads. That much is obvious. They got ins with the guards. That Percival fella, he was hunting us down. So we can't trust him. We can't trust them. Right now, I don't know what'll happen down the line, but I trust you, Nihilus. For as much as that's worth.
And you.
So,
Even though I would disagree, and even though we would have our different opinions, I trust you too.
thank you.
I think now might be a good time to discuss something else.
Right.
My very good best friend, Valadin here, has been looking for a reason to leave this hole, and it seems like you all could use friends. Well, I can be the first to vouch for Valadin's true friendship.
Cogsworth, we've spoken about this.
No, you can always come back and visit if you find the time for your old friend Cogsworth. How would you all feel about having my good friend Valadin join you for some time?
Well, yeah, actually, that's what I was getting at is we're very low on friends. So I think what we should do is instead of pushing him away, we take the corner that we're trapped in and we start making ourselves a little home. We take the friends we got and we use them to help us dig ourselves out. So if your choice isn't what he says, he motions over to Cogsworth. If you make your own choices, then if you want to come with us, we would love the company.
Baladin would finish serving a warm cup of tea with delicate care that you would expect from a butler rather than the armored warrior he appears to be, as he would hand it on a cup to Nihilus. You speak admirably, Father, of your goals. Although, I assume you are quite new to the island, based on your view on it. It is much darker beyond the walls. I knew someone once who tried to fight against it. They failed, and I failed. If you are following this group, trying to make the world a better place, even if it is through your God and their teachings of truth and knowledge, I would be glad to be of service. Agree with you, Trevor. You could use a hand, even if it's not of flesh. As his hand will whir around his wrist.
Especially if there's this much darkness, let us cast a light. But excuse my foul tongue, after hearing all of us bicker, would you even jelly belly flicking want to join us?
I like this guy.
I would be worried if you didn't bicker. You remind me of a group that was constantly at each other's throats. True friends and companions I haven't seen beyond in books.
I think this is cause for celebration. And he goes over to a table and pulls out a bottle of Elysian effervescence, as well as a little tanker of oil. And he brings both to the center of the room. He puts the bottle into the center for everybody to share, and he takes the oil and begins oiling his little friends, Gizmo, Bolt, Sparky, and Pivot.
Before we celebrate, what say you, Esper?
Any friends that we can get. Friends are good.
You doing okay? You can say no.
I don't know yet how I'm doing.
I know this is asking a lot, but keep us in the loop, will you? We care.
Whatever has happened since we came here, we're now in a space where we have to survive. And doing what we need to survive, I don't think means making easy decisions. Decisions that don't always feel good or great, or decisions that feel like they're always right. He was going to tell if we let him live. I know that somewhere in my bones. I just know that. It might not sit right with me. It might not sit comfortably in me. And I have to square with that just as much as anybody else here does. I guess that just takes a little bit of time.
I don't regret what I did. Not entirely. I recognize that maybe there could have been other ways. Not at the time, I think.
They were already coming for us. We already knew that we had to go quickly, Trevor. I
know. I think maybe I was just given a bit too much time to think on it.
I don't blame you, Trevor.
And I think that maybe we've all kind of had a lot of time to think on it, and we all have our ways. So maybe it'd be best if we just try and rest for a bit, get our stuff together, get our heads right, and we can make a better decision then.
Agreed. So with that on note, let us cheer to our newest member to our misfit of outlaws. If you would have us, Faladin. And please indulge my curiosity, however crude the question, but how old are you?
I don't know.
Marvelous. Welcome aboard.
I lose track of the years sometimes too.
I have so many questions.
You look good.
Thank you.
I don't know.
So many questions.
You do not look so great. I'll be happy to sew up your clothing during the night.
No filter, huh?
Thank you for taking Valadin out of my little hole in the ground. It means a lot to me, as I'm sure it does him. He takes one of the blankets and goes over to a small springed mattress in the corner that squeals as he lays down onto it.
There's a big heart on you, Cogsworth.
That's just my blood pressure.
Sure it is.
Good night, everybody.
I'll take a little sip of that effervescence and kind of shake his head.
Dr. Glass is the last to stand up. She takes her cane over and finds her spot. But she pauses next to Nihilus, kind of standing next to him, and just says so he can hear, if you cast light in the darkness, everything in the darkness just knows where you are. That's how you get devoured, you damn fool.
He smiles and thinks to himself in his own mind. Hence why everything and everyone should be illuminated, so there is no darkness left.